Hello again, my lovelies. I'm wearing my sea hat tonight because tonight I'm going to read you the Sailor Dog story. The Sailor Dog is all about a dog who was born at sea. It's written by Margaret Wise Brown. Enjoy. Oh, let's get comfortable. Do you like my hat? That's my sailing hat. I thought it would be appropriate to wear for this story. Born at sea in the teeth of a gale, the sailor was a dog. Scuppers was his name. There's a picture of him. Can you see him? After that, he lived on a farm, but Scuppers, born at sea, was a sailor by heart. And when he grew up, he wanted to go back to the sea. So he went to look for something to go in. He found a big aeroplane. "All aboard!" they called. It was going up in the sky, but Scuppers did not want to go up in the sky. He found a little submarine. "All aboard!" they called. It was going down under the sea, but Scuppers did not want to go down under the sea. He found a little car. "All aboard!" they called. It was going over the land, but Scuppers did not want to go over the land. He found a train. "All aboard!" they called. It was going to go along the railway lines, but Scuppers did not want to go along the railway lines. Scuppers was a sailor. He wanted to go to sea. So Scuppers went over the hills and far away until he came to the ocean blue. And on the ocean was a ship. It was blowing all its whistles. "All aboard!" they called. "All ashore that are going ashore. All aboard!" There's his boat. Nice big boat. Sails looked a bit tatty. So Scuppers went to sea. The ship began to move slowly along. The wind blew it. In his ship, Scuppers had a little room. In his room he had a hook for his hat, and a hook for his rope, and a hook for his pants, and a hook for his coat, and a hook for his spyglass, and a place for his shoes, and a bunk for a bed to put himself in. At night Scuppers threw the anchor into the sea and went down to his little room below. You see him? He looks quite at home there, doesn't he? He hung his hat on the hook for his hat, and his rope on the hook for his rope, and his pants on the hook for his pants, and his coat on the hook for his coat, and his spyglass, you guessed it, on the hook for his spyglass. And he put his shoes under the bed, and he got into bed, which was a bunk, and went fast to sleep. The next morning he was shipwrecked. Too big a storm blew out of the sky. The anchor dragged and the ship crashed onto the rocks. There was a big hole in it. Scuppers himself was washed overboard and hurled by huge waves onto the shore. It was foggy and rainy. There were no houses, and Scuppers needed a house. But on the beach were lots and lots of driftwood and an old rusty box stuck in the sand. Maybe, just maybe, it might be treasure. It was treasure to Scuppers. It was an old-fashioned toolbox with a hammer and nails and an axe and a saw. Everything he needed to build himself a house. So Scuppers started to build a house all by himself out of the driftwood along the shore. He built a door and a window and a roof and a porch and a floor and some walls. And he found some red bricks and built a big red chimney. And then he lit a fire, and the smoke went straight up the chimney. There's his house. Not sure I'd like to live in that one. After building his house, he was hungry, so he went fishing. He went fishing in a big river. The first fish he caught never came up. The second fish he caught got away. The third fish he caught was too little, but the next fish he caught was just right. That night he cooked the fish he caught, and the smoke went up the chimney. Then the stars came out and he was sleepy, so he made a bed of pine branches. He jumped into his deep green bed and went to sleep, and as he slept, he dreamed. If he could build a house, he could mend the hole in the ship, he thought. Look, can you see where he's fixing the ship? There he is. Hope you can see that. So the next day, at low tide, he took his toolbox and waded out and hammered planks across the hole in his ship. At last, the ship was fixed. Oh, I can hear a storm outside. So he sailed away until he came to a seaport in a foreign land. By now his clothes were all worn and ripped and blown to pieces. His shirt was torn, his hat and coat were gone, and his shoes were all worn out. Only his pants were still good. So he went ashore to buy some clothes at the Army and Navy store. First he bought a coat. He found a red one too small. He found a blue one just right. It had brass buttons. And then he bought a hat. He found a purple one too silly. And he found a white one that was just right. He needed new shoes, and he found some yellow ones too small and some red ones slightly too fancy. And then he found some white ones that were just right. He is wearing his new hat and his new shoes and his new coat with the shiny brass buttons. He has a can of polish and a cloth to keep them shiny, and he has a new rope and a bushel of fresh oranges. Now Scupper wants to go back to his ship, so he goes there. Doesn't he look smart? Wow. And at night, when the stars came out, he takes one last look through his spyglass and goes down below to his little room. He hangs his new hat on the hook for his hat. He hangs his spyglass on the hook for his spyglass. He hangs his new coat on the hook for his coat, and his pants on the hook for his pants. His new rope on the hook for his rope, and his new shoes he puts under the bunk, and himself he puts in his bunk. And here is where he wants to be, a sailor sailing the deep green sea. His song: I am Scuppers the sailor dog. I'm Scuppers the sailor dog. I can sail in a gale, right over a whale, under full sail in a fog. I am Scuppers the sailor dog. I am Scuppers the sailor dog. With a shake and a snort, I can sail into port, under full sail in a fog. Funny little dog. That's him, sailing in the fog, in a storm. The Sailor Dog, Margaret Wise Brown. Did you enjoy that? Good night.